I'm feeling like a brand new me. For the very first time, I'm not where I'm meant to be. Brand new.
Welcome to Outsmart the Hustle, where we turn hard work into smart work, helping you focus on the high-impact moves that drive your business forward without getting stuck in the grind. Notice how I didn't use the word luxury anywhere in the mission statement, because there's a lot of keywords that I think get overused and have lost their meanings. Luxury is one of them. Everyone wants to be this quote unquote luxury vendor, but what does that even mean? There's a lot of these words that businesses will use that kind of have become a lingo in this industry, but that actual brides and couples just don't understand. They don't understand what it means to be a fine art wedding photographer. Like, what does that even mean for them? The main thing is meta ads, but everything with my brand is cohesive, from the website to how I present myself. I'm not trying to post about my cat as often anymore. Like, it's just everything really should be cohesive, that when they go to my website, they're like, oh yeah, this is the same person.
Thank you so very much for tuning in today's conversation. I am super, super excited to have today's guest. It is Hannah McGinty. It was great meeting you we've probably known each other for, I think, at least 2 years at this point now. Through different networking events and just hearing about the cool things she does. And she also introduced me to a few networking associations as well. And of course, on the Hustle Free podcast, I just want to be able to share other amazing people that I meet in the event industry vein. And I just want to thank you for being a guest today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to get started.
Yes. And so what is awesome about you is that I feel that sometimes we only hear about the planners only. And we don't always hear about the talented people that are doing the videography as well as photography portions of this special moment. And you are an award-winning videographer for like luxury weddings. So please share a little bit about yourself, and then we'll jump right into this conversation.
Yes. So I've been doing weddings since 2019, and only really in the last 3 years has it blown up.
Okay.
It's been a lot of the grind, a lot of like learning the business background and everything. Because I went to film school, but it taught me nothing about business. And I think that what helps my work stand out is all the business planning that went into it. I did a entrepreneurship program at TWU for women, and that is what really skyrocketed my brand and the methods that I used for selling and marketing. And that's actually where awards started funneling in. So I really don't have I feel like I come at it from a humble standpoint, that these awards came from, the grit and the effort and the help from my mentors, and really helped push me to the next level.
And I think what's awesome that you even shared about your experience, even with learning about the business side of it. Often I find, and I share about this on my platform, is that often creatives want to only focus on the creative part.
Yeah.
Not really the business part, because that is what helps us with, one, getting clients, which is the conversation of today, but also just so we can scale, so that we can really build something that we want. And, everyone doesn't want to have a big company. Some people may just want something on the side where they're making a few extra dollars. However, I do find that there's this thing about, working for yourself and being your own boss. But in order to do that, we also have to really start looking at our businesses in a way that we are not just making money, but we're able to retain clients. We're able to market ourselves to have the success that we're truly wanting inside of our business.
100%. Yeah, I totally agree. I think that what I'm finding is, just now being in the education space as a videographer, I'm learning that a lot of videographers and photographers alike have these closed off mindsets of what they could actually make with their business. And, money mindset is something I just feel like we're not taught generally in the US. But once they can get around a lot of people who have exceeded what they thought was possible with their business, they start realizing, oh, I could do this too. Or maybe they don't and they dismiss it and then they'll never see what their businesses could make. But, you know, there's a lot of potential with the media business and what you could do with it.
And so for you then, what would be the first thing that you realized about your approach when it comes to marketing your business?
Yeah, I was marketing to everybody. And when you market to everybody, you market to nobody. So the main thing was to figure out, who is Hannah McGinty and how does she fit into my client's space, right? I was one of those people that felt really bad if I didn't include a couple after filming them on my social media. And what I realized about that is that I'm a people pleaser. And they're honestly, like, who am I to even think that they care to check my Instagram all the time, right? Yeah. I'm the one that sees it every day. So I'm the one that thinks, oh yeah, they're going to be totally checking if I post them. Actually, no, they could care less and they move on with their lives after this. So I really only started, rebranded into videography only because I realized I didn't want to become the combo package for everybody. I didn't want to be that discount vendor. And then I cleaned up my Instagram. I cleaned up my website. Everything on social media had to look cohesive and it needed to showcase the type of clients that I wanted to continue working with moving forward. And, you know, for some people that's really challenging. And it was really challenging for me in the moment because of my people pleasing tendencies to want to include everyone. But at the same point, I realized I really shouldn't be for everybody. At what point, you know, you look at these like luxury brands, like a BMW isn't for everybody, right? So what is your key, like, definer? Like, what's your brand archetype that's really going to relate to your dream clients? And I had to realize that sooner than later in order to get where I am today. And I'm still refining that as I go. But I'm way like more aware of it when I come to social media content creation and posting, down to the clothes that I wear and what colors. It's very much a persona and you have to stay consistent with it.
Yeah. And even with hearing your share, being clear about the fact that it's okay if I only do video. I think that sometimes that can be the first biggest step when someone is in this vein, is wanting to do all the things because someone gives them the opportunity. And years ago, when I started my own event business, I remember I did 2 to 3 personal events. And I remember saying, I don't choose this. This does not bring me joy. I rather do what I love at the level that I enjoy it, compared to forcing myself just because the opportunity has come up to take advantage of it. So I would love to know a little bit about, like, what made you even have the boldness to stand in the fact of, I just want to do this, you know, before you even get into the marketing. Like, that's a decision that you
It is a decision.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. The main thing was my 5-year plan. Yeah, I needed to look at, where do I see myself in the future? And is what I'm currently doing even serving that? And the answer was no. So I needed to be like, okay, what needs to change? And the answer to that was get rid of the service and the products that, one, I'm not making as much money on, or that I don't have a lot of fulfillment in, and really only sell the things that I enjoy and that are best sellers, you know? So it really had to come down to, like, am I going to foresee myself being burnt out offering this thing for an extended amount of time? And the answer to that was yes. So I just cut it. And I see people, you know, oppositely actually adding photo into their video business because they find out they were a photographer all along and they really enjoyed photography. And now they do associates for their videography side of the business. And they have this challenge of, like, okay, can I keep the brand consistent with an associate shooter? So they have their own, you know, challenges and everything. Like, I still get asked, hey, do you do photography? And I just have to be like, no, I do not. But here are some photographers that we enjoy working with. And if we're not a good fit, we're simply just not a good fit. It's kind of at this point where I have to say, yes and no based on a client checklist, which I'm happy to give your audience today if they would like to look at that. So it's a really cool client checklist where it's like you can identify red flags pretty much immediately in your consult calls and be like, is this client for me or not?
Yeah, no, and I think that is important, especially in the event vein, because and this is not only just for videographers, photographers, because I find that caterers do the exact same thing. I find that balloon artists do the exact same thing. There's this almost, it's a two-prong. It's one, that there's this fear of lack of getting more, like we don't want to turn away clients. Like if they're interested, I think that sometimes can be that. Two is just because I can do it doesn't mean I need to do it. And I think that, I have a camera, might as well. But
yeah.
But if that's not really what you enjoy, and that ties into what you said about burnout, like burnout is a really real conversation and topic in our vein of industry, because one, it takes a lot of just interaction with our clients, and to produce at the level in which we produce. And if we're not having clarity on like what we're doing, why we're doing it, and the style and quality of what we're wanting to do, then you can almost like wake up in a couple of years and realize like I've created something that I'm good at, but I really don't enjoy.
Exactly.
Awesome. So for your shares, you were talking about marketing and brand. You've used both of those terms. And I love that you share that, because a lot of times companies don't see themselves as truly as a brand and the message that they're wanting. So like you can even see how disjointed it is by the content that they put with, if they're just a wedding photographer, you can't even tell what their personal style is. If you had to describe your business brand, what would you actually use as verbiage?
We put this into a mission statement that everyone on our team knows, and we're all on the same page, even when they're just contractors, right? Because they're going to be shooting for our brand a lot, and I want them to be familiar with it. So I say, we help couples preserve and relive their wedding day memories with cinematic storytelling that captures the emotions, personal connections, and cherished moments they never want to forget. So notice how I didn't use the word luxury anywhere.
Yeah.
in the mission statement, because there's a lot of keywords that I think get overused and have lost their meanings. Luxury is one of them. Everyone wants to be this quote unquote luxury vendor, but what does that even mean? There's a lot of these words that businesses will use that kind of have become a lingo in this industry, but that actual brides and couples just don't understand. They don't understand what it means to be a fine art wedding photographer. Like, what does that even mean for them? And so if we make it less about us and more about our ideal client, and we speak exactly to what type of service they are wanting, that is the type of brand that we should become. Is it like study the ideal client, figure out what is it, like, what are they searching for, right? There's a lot of market research that could go into that, and use those words, use the words that they're searching for.
Yes, I love that. And like, because when you're thinking about market research, we hear our ideal client, we hear about all of these terms. And again, sometimes creatives get into the space of being creative, that these terminologies can sometimes be almost daunting for them. And if you had to describe your ideal client, who would you say your ideal client is?
Yeah, they're going to be really down to earth. And they're also going to be someone who values family first and foremost, because the deep connections that they have with their friends and the family, they know this is probably a once in a lifetime event that everyone is going to get together all at once. And they're very hyper aware of that. They're not like, it's all about us, we only wanted to focus on us. They're not that type of client for at least for us, right? They really value interviews. They love the story. I just wrapped up a wedding in Washington, D.C., where we shot for 3 days straight. It was a love story session where we like literally went back to the location of their first date and we told different stories on a love story walk and we put that together for their film. Not a lot of filmmakers do that. So that's our unique selling point, is that we are able to create essentially a documentary from your wedding, and our clients love that. And that's what sets us apart.
Oh, that sounds so amazing. Like, it's so much better than just getting the day, but for the right type of individual, they really want to have this capsule of something that's special to them. Like, and I think everyone, when they get married, they have different viewpoints on what is special to them.
Yeah.
And they try to, or I would hope that they would try to find the right types of vendors that will help with focusing on that specific task or that specific moment for them in a way that they can always look back at it in an amazing way.
Yes, exactly. They love that it's unique to them. And it truly is. The one thing that they notice consistently when I hear in my discovery calls before they even booked me is that they're like, yeah, we've watched every single video and not a single one was the same. None followed a specific formula or anything. And I'm proud of that. And I'm like, yes, we did our job. They're supposed to be unique for every couple. So
I love that. And so if you can share, what is a strategy that, or a campaign that you like to do when you try to market your own services, be it on social media, to attract the type of client that you truly want to attract?
yes. So this is a really interesting finding recently, is that it's all personal brand. It has really nothing to do with what I create. So my personal brand, my ads that do the best are just me holding a camera. That is it. It. Right. Yes, I know. It's like the environment needs to obviously look like I'm in a wedding and be a place that I would see myself in again and again. So I don't need to just take a studio headshot, right? Because it doesn't accurately portray she's a wedding videographer.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would maybe use that type of thing for a corporate gig, but not for weddings. Yeah. So I did a photo shoot at Luttrellstown Castle in Ireland, and I used that photo with me holding my camera and just put my irresistible offer on the ad. Looks so ugly, but it's what gets me $10,000 bookings minimum from clients. And like when I tell this to videographers, they're just like, there's no way. You have to showcase your work. You have to show them what you can do. And I'm like, say less. Just honestly, like, it's not about like what you can do in that realm. It's about, do they vibe with you? Are they going to value the same things that you value? Do your personalities match well? You know, there's a lot more to it than just showing them a bunch of pretty videos, because they're going to look at those and be like, well, what do I do with this? Right? They want to know the person behind the camera. And a lot of us hate being on camera because we're introverts. And I just think that's so challenging for a lot of photographers and videographers, is that they have a really big struggle having a personal brand. And so if they can get in front of the camera a little bit more often, they're going to get booked more. That's just my opinion / finding, but it's backed by a few other students that I've been teaching that to, and they're doing a lot better now that they're actually showing their face.
And I would think even with ads that photo, your ad is catching their attention, but also too, for those that are wanting to potentially see examples of their work, they can easily just click on your little logo and then they can go to, so it gets them to stop and like, hold on, this is this offer. Let me go and look at their work. So it stops the scroll, because in this moment, ads or just content, like I was joking with some friends today, I was just like, my Facebook feed is crazy. And it's just, I'm seeing a lot of things that I just don't even want to see, like weird groups and all types of things. So, or just ads on things that don't even cause me to stop the scroll, because it's just so noisy. And I think it's important for us to understand that a lot of people are probably in the same position where their feed is so noisy with all kinds of whatever. And if you want to stop them, you have to say something that causes them to stop, considering all of the other distractions that are there.
100% agree. Yeah, everything is so noisy. You have like 2 seconds to grab someone's attention. And if it just looks like any other content they would normally find, because as soon as they're engaged, the algorithm knows to spam them with wedding content. So if it's just going to be another cog in the wheel, they're going to scroll right past it. They're not going to read your caption, right?
Yeah.
They're not going to be like, oh, who's this pretty video or photo from? Like, they're not going to care in that way. Yeah.
At all. And so for yourself, what would you say are the main things that you try to focus on when it comes to attracting? Is it just only ads, or what are the methods that you try to lean into with attracting the kind of clients you want to have?
Yeah, the main thing is meta ads, but everything with my brand is cohesive, from the website to how I present myself. I'm not trying to post about my cat as often anymore. Like, it's just everything really should be cohesive, that when they go to my website, they're like, oh yeah, this is the same person, right? I also try to do Google ads and TikTok ads. I actually paused them with all the stuff that went on with TikTok recently. I wasn't sure if it was going to stay around, if I was going to still get a build for my TikTok ads, but I will be bringing those back. But what I'm finding is that if you got to appear in front of people anywhere from 7 to 14 times before they begin to trust you. So if you can kind of like attack it in every single frame that they're at, then you're dominating your local market in that way. So I've done all at once when I'm running ad campaigns: Google, meta ads, and TikTok. So they're seeing me everywhere that they search.
Oh, that's smart. That is very, very smart. And so do you ever use any of the other platforms like the Knot, or any of those third parties that help, that some people do use?
Yeah, I am currently not on the Knot or Wedding Wire, and I have like a free account that just kind of sits there now. But the types of leads that I have gotten from those sites haven't exactly been the best fit. So I'm not currently investing in them right now.
And that's fair. So like, I even found this statistic. So I'm glad you even shared that. They said that 75% of couples now hire wedding videographers on the Knot. No, according to that, 75% of couples are now hiring wedding videographers, just reflecting this desire for cinematic storytelling. The thing about it, though, is also understanding what types of brides and groom, like what types of couples are using those platforms. Like, I think that that's something that's very important to understanding, that for certain types of individuals, their first resource isn't going to one of those platforms. And also, I've heard from different types of individuals in this industry, is that because on these platforms, there might be 15, 20 of caterers in one space, what that person does is just spam all 20, compared to finding that person that is that best match for them. So yeah, you're getting leads in. And I think that that's a part of understanding with business and marketing, is conversion. So you can get a ton of leads in, but if they're not the leads that are connecting to your brand, that's going to automatically impact your conversion rate. And it's important to understand that when you're marketing your business, you need to be marketing it in front of the people that are going to be your ideal client, not just because you're copying and pasting, because you may not, if someone is listening to this podcast or watching it on video, you may not be this cinematic videographer, and nothing's wrong with that. So regardless of what your personal style is inside of your event business, be it in photography, videography, or any of the other veins, this is not to rinse and repeat to be someone else. This is to be clear about what service you're providing, to whom you're providing it to. And the part of marketing is understanding where those individuals are, so that you're getting in front of them. Because if you tend to lean on being a business that your clients are more price focused, you may want to be on specific platforms because they're just looking for the cheapest that fits in their budget. Where if you're tending to want to market towards individuals that are willing to, it might not necessarily be that they just have an abundance of money, but they're willing to invest in the things that matter to them. you also need to know where they are. What are the things that stop them? What are the things that they're going to be searching for? Because those are two different individuals and they're not in the same space. Which is that the best way
Agreed.
you could describe it?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, you have to know what kind of realm does your business fit in. Like, so for example, when I'm at a bridal show, the bridal show team tells me you'll be lucky to book 1% of the brides that walk in through this door because your price point is this high. And I was like, all right, bet. So I did it and I booked 1%, but that was enough for me to make that bridal show worth it, right? But that means 99% of the brides walking through that door were not my ideal client.
And you have to be okay with that. And I think that is the part that can sometimes be the hardest about marketing and a business. Because sometimes what happened, because I've seen it even when I've set up people HoneyBook accounts, they're like, oh, I looked at, they're charging this for this amount for this specific service. And I'm like, how many events would you have to do for this to even make sense for you? Like, how do you scale that? Because even if you make your pricing at this price point, and again, everyone's operating expenses are totally different. The states that you live in, your taxes are totally different. You know, there's a lot of variables that you have to take in consideration. However, I'm like, how do you afford to have someone work with you to execute these, to be able to scale if we aren't marketing to the client that will allow for us to have the lifeline in our business? You already know HoneyBook can make your life easier. However, you may be in a position where you know that you're not using the automations or any of the really cool features to the fullest of its capacity. Let's be real. Learning how to set up a CRM can feel challenging. So if you're tired of DIYing your CRM so that you can actually start to convert clients and feel the ease from using this platform, it's time for you to check out my Done For You services so that you can get access to workflows, templates, and automations. My Done For You services are intended to make your event business thrive. So let's take the headache out of the process and get started together, because you deserve to be able to focus on what you want to focus on, which is your business, which is to make money inside of your company. So are you ready to have a system that's working for you? If so, click in the description so that you can get a free consultation with me today.
Right. Yeah. I starting kind of like reverse engineering on what even is your yearly goal is so helpful, because then you can see, okay, how many of these like service or products do I have to sell in order to meet this goal? Are we on track? Like, that's why doing these at the very beginning of the year is so helpful, because then you can know, okay, am I meeting like tracking data, right?
Yeah.
Like if you're advertising on the Knot and Wedding Wire and it's working for you, that's great. But if you're advertising this other vein and it's not working, why isn't it working? Are your ideal clients even there? You know, I think that there's a great thing about marketing research that when you look into clients or you look into past clients that you've worked with and you've really enjoyed working with them, just interviewing them with some marketing research questions, just to see like, okay, how can I find more people like this person?
Yes. Yes. And I think too, from even what you're sharing, like it's also understanding that you're doing storytelling from a marketing standpoint when you are putting your brand out there, and clearly understanding what story it is that you're wanting to tell. Like there's one venue that is a client has set up, they're in New Orleans, and this place looks like such a fun location. Like I look at some of the photos and like, I wish I lived near here, because I know that they do some private events, but they also do some public events. It's such a fun location. If someone's looking for something completely sterile, that is probably not the place you want to go to. But if you're wanting to have this fun, lively party, this looks like the place. And they do this well through storytelling about their space, which probably then helps for them when someone books them, that they're not limited on their belief on what can even happen in that space, because they're showing all the fun activities that can happen inside of there. So when we hear marketing, think about what story you're trying to tell about your brand, so that you're able to have that people can understand a little bit more about you and your services, which then takes away that crutch of, oh, there's so much competition out there. And I'm like, but is it really? Like, you are you. How do you make yourself different? How do you showcase your services, which is also still all at the core of it, storytelling. How have you started to explore that? I mean, because I think you've touched on that a little bit, but I would love for you to dig into that a little bit more.
Yeah, I think you're kind of touching on what we call story brand, in that the person that you are inherently is the guide to your client, who is the hero in their own story. So when we look at ourselves as like the Yoda to the Luke Skywalker, for example, we're not the main characters, but a lot of us think that we are. And we really do just need to be like, okay, I am the expert in this thing. And, have that confidence and be like, I'm going to show you exactly what you need to get your dream delivered, right? When you listen better to your client and what exactly they need, then you can structure a package or a service to be exactly what it is that they need. And that makes the sale a lot easier. A lot of us just talk at people. We talk about our services, our pricing, and it's very like logical and everything. And it doesn't help us at all because we're just making it about ourselves. And so in this story brand mindset, you are just a guide. And you're like, hey, we could do this. You said you wanted interviews with your grandparents. We can do that during this time in the wedding. And you just kind of like start piecing together this vision for them of how you become like the guide into making sure they see the results that they're wanting. And then they can't envision it without you. So if you're able to sell your services in that way, where it's mostly listening, then you become a more successful business owner just naturally.
Yeah. And one of the questions that even with your share, so when you're doing these captures while you're executing the services, I know you've mentioned ads and how you use social media as well, just to solidify the story and what you're telling. I'm sure there's probably someone listening thinking to themselves, okay, so how do you think through the social presence of what you're actually shooting? Because you shared before that you don't always like to post everything that you shoot. So do you think to yourself when you're actually delivering on the service, I might need to capture certain moments so that I can use in social? Or is it just after the service, you just piece together what makes the most amount of sense? Because those are two different end deliveries. Because even if a client's like, hey, can you create a really cool snippet that we want to share from our wedding on our page, I would assume that that's different from what you also personally would want to share and highlight on your social presence. Or is it sometimes the same? I'm just assuming that it may be different. Or how do you go about thinking like, okay, this is a story I'm telling for my brand, but I need to capture content I'm getting paid to capture at the wedding, but I also need to create content for my brand. How does all of that happen at the same time?
Yeah. So the thing I think about ahead of time is, where are moments that I could teach on camera and record like ads and things if needed, if there's a needed ad update or whatever, I would get there earlier and do that. But when it comes to the wedding day itself, I'm very hands off in that I'm not actively thinking about this wedding. What can I showcase and advertise? I am there to be 100% present and to serve my couple, and whatever happens according to their day happens, because what actually really connects with audiences is genuine moments and no staged things. So my most viral reel was one where just no one knew about this. I didn't know about this, that it was happening until 10 minutes before it happened, because the bride wanted to keep it so secret that she didn't tell a soul. And so she told me 10 minutes before she walked down the aisle, hey, I'm going to have a voiceover play before I walk down to the aisle on this Ben Platt song. And I was like, oh, okay. And so immediately I had to grab my audio gear, make sure the DJ knew, and like the DJ didn't know. Like, we had to make sure that like people were on board. And there was not a dry eye in the room when this happened. And it had been the first time at a wedding that this had happened. And it went viral because it was such a genuine moment. And because we had 3 videographers that day, we were able to like keep people in place and watch it all come together. And, you know, that's, I think, the difference between a videographer and a skilled professional is that someone who is going to see something like that on the fly, capture it beautifully, right? But that had about 400,000 brides asking their DJs if they could make voiceovers for their wedding before they walked down the aisle, and it created a trend for quite some time. And it might still be going on. Who knows? But, you know, 20 million views on TikTok, 16 million on Instagram, and it just popped off. And there's been a lot of reels like that I've made where it was just some genuine moment that happened at the wedding. We happened to capture it. And I'm like, that's good. So that gets posted. So, you know, there's stuff like that, but there's also things where, I'll do styled shoots, or I'll do like specific staged editorial type stuff just for the sake of artistic creation and not necessarily for the story, but that's more of a, you know, this is the skill set that we have. This is what we're able to create. And your story is the bonus on top of this skill. So it's really like just the couple, let the couple be who they are and then getting to film who they are.
And I would also assume, based off of you using ads and how you're creating these curated moments, it probably alleviates the pressure to consistently post a bunch of content that isn't aligned with your brand, because the ad keeping you in front of people. And I think when ads are done correctly, it actually relieves the time from us just like dumping a whole bunch of stuff and hoping that something sticks, compared to being intentional with what we're posting on our feed and allowing the ad to draw people. Is that your strategy that you tried to attack when it comes to marketing your business?
Yeah, I think some people are like, oh, you got to post every day. You got to post like 5 times a week. And I don't generally do that. I just make sure that what I post, one, fits within our brand pillar guidelines, but also is something that produces quality over quantity. So that's how we roll. And our brides, whenever they're looking through my Instagram, they're always going to see something really, really good. And they're not going to question, oh, does this person know what they're doing? Like they're going to see like everyone commenting from the wedding party, because that's who we tag, and like all the hype that is associated with every single post that we do. We're not ever posting mediocre things. So,
and that's good to know, because I feel that we hear, you know, Instagram, you know, we hear the share of like, oh, you have to post all this content. And what happens is that sometimes with business owners, they start to think of themselves only as content creators, but lose the integrity of their business and their brand and how they want to show up, because they're going by the metrics of what they're sharing for creators, when we're using the platform to market our business. And if we're using this platform to market our business and we're not using the type of content we need to use to effectively market it, it actually probably does more damage than what we're desiring. So I do applaud you for using ads, and I would love to kind of tiptoe on that. When it comes to ads, do you try to do an offer or directly to book? Because I've seen some people do it incorrectly, but I did get targeted on one of your ads once, and I liked what you did. So share this, because I know I've seen some people that, because they don't understand the behavior of ads, they've done it incorrectly wrong. So if you could share, like, what were some of the things you may not have done correctly when you did ads, and how you have gone about using it currently to attract your leads.
Yeah, for sure. Something that's new is that I'm using three platforms at once, which is Google, TikTok, and Meta. And Meta is Facebook and Instagram. So that, what my ads team, the I Do Society, what they taught me is that you need to be in front of people at all times, wherever they're searching for you. And I agree with that because, they might have seen you on Instagram, forgot who you were, but now they're seeing you in a Google search on top 5 and they're like, whoa, that's cool. So there's that in terms of like, don't give up, keep it consistent, but also ad spend. Being okay with ad spend, knowing what your ROI is going to be and how to calculate that, which is, how much revenue you made from the ad investment to the minus the cost divided by the cost of the investment. And that's how you get your ROI percentage. But you generally want that to be like, above 80% or something. Like, I don't really know math, but I know like you want to make sure that you're earning money and you're not losing money. So I think that I was spending too little on ads and it was costing me time. But if you spend more on ads, yes, you spend more money, but it saves you time. You get either time or money, right? In terms of ads. And I was able to see quickly which ads aren't working faster, the more ad spend that I had within a campaign. So now my sweet spot is $50 a day rather than measly $5 a day on ads. But within my ad campaign, I am A/B testing, like A, B, C, D, E, F, G testing, honestly. Like what is the best performing ad with the exact same offer?
Yes.
So I'll have like 6 different photos, some carousels, some video reels, and they all have the same offer, all have the same copy, but I'm just testing which one gravitates toward my ideal client the best. And I'm able to track, okay, what ad did they reply to in the Meta Ads Manager, for example? And I can see, okay, these ones aren't doing as well. I wonder why. And then turn that one off after a couple of weeks. Like if it's not working immediately, don't turn it off because it could pick up. You just never know. And also there are some pictures that maybe didn't do as well, but do well on better other platforms. And I had one photo that did better on TikTok than it did on Instagram. And sometimes that just happens. But if you go through what you think would do better and only post those things, chances are it could fail. And I've had that happen before too, where I was like, oh, this reel I made, this video is so cool. It went viral. I'm going to run it as an ad and it flops. And you're like, So you can't just put all your eggs in one basket with ads. You really have to figure out with data and trial and error, what is actually working and make database decisions.
So with your ads, then, are you doing mostly with the focus of lead generation for an email list? So that would then lead to, are you doing email marketing to keep those people nurtured?
Yes, I use Flowdesk for email marketing. Love Flowdesk. And you can also integrate that with Honeybook. So everybody that comes in gets added. And it's a way to keep people nurtured. And mine is like up to a year for potential brides. And I just let it run for me, which is great. But the offer, I think, is the main thing. It's what irresistible offer do you have glued to that ad? Because people won't just stop for an ad if it's just a pretty picture. We talked about that earlier. So it's like, what are you going to give them? And how much time do they have to take action? That is the main thing that should be in your ad.
And I love that you share just knowing the timeline for this activity, because I think sometimes we think someone sees us once and magically they pull the trigger. Like, no, it does take multiple interactions, exposures for someone to make that decision. But even when they make the decision, that doesn't automatically convert to them doing the true activity in which we're wanting for them to do. So understanding how do I nurture someone through that process is extremely important. So a question I do have is that, of course, we have busy seasons. So how do you still stay consistent with your marketing efforts, especially during your busy season?
So during the busy season, I think it's easier. I mean, because there's always leads coming in and then equivalently money coming in. But the slower seasons might be more tough for people and for
Okay.
me, if that makes sense, because it's like no one's getting engaged and you're like,
Oh,
oh, what do we do? You know, like in the summer, for example, I purposely don't book a lot in the summer because it's so hot here in
yes.
Texas. The cameras sometimes even just shut off, even when an internal fan is inside of the camera. It, like on my contract, it is a inclement weather warning when it's above a certain degree.
Yeah.
And, you know, I've had to just add that over time because I'm like, hey, if it's outdoors, things could literally cook.
Yeah.
So,
Literally.
yeah. But, you know, I've had different realms, and maybe I just haven't been in business long enough to figure out what are the best ad methods during slower seasons. But I tend to do things like bridal shows
Yeah.
seasonally. So in February and in July is generally when those are, or sometimes it's January and July, just kind of like beginning and mid season.
Yeah.
And then ads are running literally whenever I need them to. I've gotten them to the point through trial and error that as long as I'm turning them on, I get leads no matter what season it is. I don't think everybody experiences that though. I think that a lot of people struggle with ads. And sometimes it's their offer. Sometimes their offer isn't what their ideal clients want.
Yeah.
And honestly, I kind of have this belief that if you can make an irresistible offer, solidify it, test it, try it, whenever you turn those ads on, they're going to work for you.
Yeah, I love that share. Awesome. So I do have, as we're wrapping up it today, what advice would you give to anyone that is looking to build their marketing strategy if they are in the video or photography vein?
Okay, I would say don't do it all yourself. Trust a BTS videographer or photographer or both to work with you on shoots that you really want as portfolio pieces. I think you shouldn't underestimate the power of a BTS person. They're going to get that content for you. You pay them hourly, or maybe a day rate, depending on what they ask you for. And you can edit it all yourself, or you can outsource it to them, depending on your budget. But that way you're grabbing content that you can use for your social media. And then you have it, because imagine doing the most extravagant wedding ever, and now you have no BTS content from it. You know, some people are even using those 360 cameras, putting it on their camera on their body, and then like doing that. Even that's great. Like at least you have something, right? Yeah. I'm kind of bougie. I love to have just a person there that I can talk to, because I would get really bored if I was just talking to myself. So I bring a person with me so I can talk to them, and they just film me talking to them. And if they have questions, because they're usually a newer student or they're just getting into weddings, so they're usually talking to me on the other side of the camera because they have a question about something. And I'm like, you know what? This is a great teaching point. Film me. And then we go for it. So it's a lot of run and gun type stuff, but it's really fun once you get used to the habit of creating your own content. And you don't even have to be the one to create it. Outsource it.
Yeah. I love that. Great tips. So as your business continues to grow, how do you plan on evolving your marketing strategies?
Okay. So my business is growing more into the education space, actually. So I am transforming the marketing through another vein with my course and doing a lot of live workshops. So less on like the wedding side of things, but I'll still be doing weddings. A relevant educator is greatly loved. We don't ever like the people that just kind of retire and then they now talk at people. But I always see myself doing at least like anywhere from 1 to 5 really good weddings a year and still teaching people as I go. But the marketing would primarily be around, you know, the storytelling, the story brand, and then teaching videographers how to get their businesses up and running with consistent ROI, because I think that, you know, creatives in general aren't taught the business side of things. And if a bride also sees me as a, you know, authority figure in the videography space, I think that will help, you know, my credibility too with couples, not only with videographers. So it's going to kind of head in that direction, and we'll see how that goes.
Awesome. So share with people then, if they do want to connect or learn about some of the courses, what's the best way for them to connect with you?
Yeah, it's hello@filmbusinesscourse.com. It's that easy. Just filmbusinesscourse.com. And we have a course right now that's like you can get your dream clients in 90 days. And if you're a photographer or you're a videographer, I welcome you to come check it out. Right now, we're just kind of in the seed launching process. So we're doing just 10 people, which is kind of like my little marketing research cohort. But everything they've been telling me so far is really good feedback. One of our star students in 2 weeks got 5 bookings and had a $31,000 month.
Wow.
Yeah, this month. And so I'm like, more people that we help are just going to see like how to up level their branding and their ad strategy and get consistent bookings. She had to turn off her ads because she was getting too many leads. But she was like, this is so freeing to be able to pick and choose the clients I want to work with based on her ideal client profile that we made. Yeah. And so I want to be able to do that for other videographers. And if you're a photographer, come on in. It's pretty much the same thing. You just post photos on your ads instead of the videos, and you'll be able to learn a lot. So I want to be able to help a lot of creatives. And yeah, it's Memoir Mastery, one word, on Instagram if you guys want to follow us. And we have a podcast too called Outsmart the Hustle.
Awesome. Well, fantastic. Thank you so very much for being a guest today. I am hopeful that people that will listen to this take heed, because even I can see how several different niches are falling victim to really understanding the power of marketing their business. Because yes, having to focus on the creative is one part, but like really stepping into and embracing being a business owner and what that looks like is the next part to truly have the success that we want in our businesses.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jesse. I've really enjoyed being on your podcast, and I look forward to hearing this when it comes out and listening to all the other ones.
Fantastic.
I'ma tell everybody I'm feeling like a brand new me. Brand new, brand new. Feeling like a brand new me, brand new me. I'm feeling like a brand new me.
Outsmart the Hustle is produced by Book by Strategy, a film business course, hosted by Hannah McGinty, and edited by Manuel Mesa. Follow us at Book by Strategy literally anywhere for more creative business tips.